This is Pro Wrestling Indiestrated, a new podcast offering from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, PWI. What else? I put myself up to doing this. I teased that I might do it. There was a fairly positive response on the Twitters, so I am doing it. Oh, I'm Kevin McElvaney, Editor-in-Chief of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Probably should have led with that. Don't worry, the PWI podcast with Al Castle and Brian Solomon isn't going anywhere. I mean, that's still the main podcast you're going to hear on this feed, but wanted to branch out and, do some things that we hadn't done as much of before. Specifically, there's this really exciting independent wrestling scene in North America. Wanted to focus on it a bit more than we had in the past. So here we are. This is the first episode. I've got an interview coming up in a few minutes with Dan Champion, Big Dan. And he's going to be talking to, well, he already did talk to me about an exciting event coming up this weekend in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which is a 2-night wrestling extravaganza at the Mahoning Drive-In. There's some exciting people who are going to be involved with that. I'll again, got to save something for the actual interview. Again, this is a brand new podcast, so still trying to get my bearings straight a little bit here. I envision this as being something really cool where we could talk about some exciting events that have recently happened that are coming up. Talk to some of the movers and shakers in independent wrestling, whether that's wrestlers, promoters, referees, managers, people who are involved in making merchandise and art and all sorts of other exciting stuff, because it is a really cool patchwork of individuals that come together to make these events possible. I think there's probably room to read off some results in here again, even though people are probably looking those things up on the internet where you are hearing this. However, if you have any ideas for what you'd like to hear on this show, I mean, you can let us know at official PWI, or you can come right at me, bro, at Wackelvaney, WACKELVANEY. And that's a lot to remember. So feel free to just hit up official PWI or navigate there and click my name, or you know what, click Harry Burkett or Al Castle's names. They don't have anything to do with this show, but I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. Those are, our two senior writers. I know you're here to hear Big Dan Champion. You're not here to hear me. Here to hear? You're here. So I'm going to head over to that interview by way of editing it into this podcast. I'm just going to leave all this in. This is free and easy. But again, just let me know if you have any thoughts, and we'll be back with more of these soon. If there's anybody you'd like to hear on the show, if you would like to be on the show, and there's, you better have a good reason, buddy. Again, just get in touch. All right. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Big Dan Champion. So we've got this big event coming up at the drive-in. And I mean, this is the second year in a row you guys have done this with LVAC. So, I mean, what brought this up initially? What inspired the initial idea, and then why do it again this year?
So it's a drive-in movie theater right outside the Lehigh Valley. Mm-hmm. And every weekend in the summer, they have different themes. So they'll have like a horror night with maybe some character from a horror movie. They just had David Lynch night. I guess he's in Twin Peaks. I'm not really that familiar, but he was there, and they had like a little setup where you could get his picture with him.
Wait, David Lynch was actually at the...
I think so. I saw pictures. Like, I'm not 100% sure, but somebody kept taking pictures with this dude, so I assumed it was David Lynch.
Okay.
But don't take me for gospel on that, because I could be a little bit wrong.
I'll look into that.
They had the Blob night with all the Blob movies, and then one of the writers for the Blob. So we came together and we thought, hey, why not show wrestling movies? And instead of having Mick Foley there or, some legend to do autographs. Why not just actually have a wrestling show? Right. And last year made a lot of sense because with, COVID being at its height, you couldn't really have anything indoors. You couldn't have anything indoors.
Yeah.
So it being a drive-in, you could do it outside. And it was pretty successful last year. So doing it again this year. And, again, with COVID, we can't really do too much inside now still. So it's an outdoor event. Everybody wears a mask. It's a good time. It's a great time.
And is the setup like where people can watch from their cars, but they can also approach the ring a little bit more? I think that's what I...
Yeah. So last year there was, there's a barrier between like a rope. So there's a space that you can't get close enough to the ring. It's not like the shows we did at Sokol's before COVID, where you could be right on the ring. So there's a little bit of a space between the crowd and the ring. And then the crowd themselves are spread out. So everybody brings their own blanket or lawn chair, hang out in your own little group. Or you have the option of getting in your car and watching from your car.
So, I definitely want to talk more about this specific show, but since you brought up Sokol's, I feel like we should mention that. So the LVAC, before promoting any kind of wrestling events, did and still does create apparel for people. That was the original business. And then these wrestling events started happening. So you have these Let's Hang Out events that were at the National Sokol's. And these were like no tickets sold ahead of time, show up and get in if you can. I know personally because I forget which one it was. Oh, I remember exactly which one it was. It's the one where the band Snowing played, and I ended up with some horrible technical difficulties. But drove up there and could not just okay, well, there's not really any parking, and I think there's too many people in line, so we're just going to drive around and get something to eat. I think.
That show. So.
And not to specifically bag on, not to bag on anything at all, but I wasn't even necessarily trying to bring up what happened with that show, but just what. Well, go ahead, address that show.
I'll gladly talk about that show. So, Commissioner Chris Rejek is the owner of LVAC.
Right.
He started this print shop from his shed, moved a couple buildings. Now he has his own building, and he prints a lot of shirts for many businesses.
Right.
First started with punk rock bands. So Chris used to run punk rock shows, some of them at this place called Sokol's, which is a private club that has a little banquet area, but a bar downstairs. Mm-hmm. So eventually, Chris kept doing all these wrestling, he started with Ultramantis Black because Ultramantis also has a band.
Right.
And then he started doing more wrestling shirts for Chikara guys and just kept growing and growing. So eventually he's like, hey, why not try a wrestling show? But he wanted to kind of keep it with that punk rock show vibe that he had. So no pre-sold tickets. It doesn't really stream anywhere. It's very DIY. The show you're referring to, I don't know. I'm not too much into the music scene like that, but I guess Snowing is a pretty popular band in some areas.
Yeah. And they haven't played in a while.
Haven't played in a while, but popular. So, these shows at Sokol's, there's wrestling and then there's bands that play. Well, too many people got in.
Right.
And then, Stone played and everybody started jumping around, having a good time, and the floor almost collapsed. So they had to shut the show down. So we almost destroyed Sokol's. So that was the technical difficulty was the floor collapsing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not something that usually happens at a wrestling show thing.
No. So yeah, it got pretty crazy.
So you kind of folded that all in there. My question would be how these shows started to happen anyway, and it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, not to be too inside with it, but I just as semi-local outside of Philly. I had used the print shop before with my old band. It's and then just all of a sudden hey, we're doing a wrestling show. What?
Right. Yeah.
It was just very I knew they were very well established with, worked with some, at least for the punk and indie bands. Some pretty high level acts would use them. And then just, all of a sudden that, the one show I did make it out to was actually the the Mall Madness show, which you had main evented against Orange Cassidy. Which was that a former Foot Locker at the Phillipsburg Mall?
So it's kind of funny how things go full circle. Right. Both me and Orange Cassidy are from that area. Mm-hmm. Both me and him worked at that Foot Locker at separate times, but we both worked there. So yeah, it was at the Pittsburgh Mall at an old Foot Locker we both worked at. And that's after that show happened, like a couple months later, they like started tearing down the mall. That was like the last thing ever to happen in that mall.
Wow. Well, I mean, just going in, I mean, it was
dead.
Really a sight. I mean, just what it looked like.
There's nothing open.
Yeah. I think there were a couple of cars parked in like one of the, not the parking lot where most of the people were going in. I'm like, what are they parked there for? Like, there's
nothing in there. Yeah.
So maybe it was just people parked in the wrong spot. But,
yeah.
So you have this 2-night event coming up, and Orange Cassidy is going to be there again. Bryce Remsburg is going to be there. I mean, that's two pretty big gets. I mean, those guys do not really. I mean, I guess they're allowed. I mean, AEW seems to be fairly flexible with people making some outside appearances, but those are not guys you see appearing anywhere. I mean, I think you had teased maybe The Rock was going to be appearing at one point, and then that was not what occurred.
Well, no, what happened was, we were, like any promotion we want to promote. So we were promoting a big signing. And, I gave hints, former world champion, a sex symbol, somebody that, has wrestled in Bethlehem from the Lehigh Valley.
Right.
And, it was me. All those things relate to me, but I got my buddy, The Rock, to announce it.
Oh, that's right.
That's what happened. But yeah, Orange and Bryce will be there Saturday. And, I got a little bit of a bone to pick with them because I don't know if you remember this far back, but at Mall Madness, the show we were just talking about, I got screwed. That was like the week that Orange and Bryce both were signed to AEW.
Right.
And then I have this big match with Orange, like my time to shine. And do you remember what happened? Why don't you tell him what happened?
I don't remember any kind of.
You don't? You don't remember
I remember some kind of. I remember he was trying to body slam you the whole time, and then he eventually.
Okay.
Did.
All right. But before the body slam, let me refresh your memory.
Yeah.
Bryce, out of nowhere, spits orange juice in my face. And then Cassidy spits orange juice in my face in front of Bryce. That should have been disqualification. And then Orange body slamming after my eyes and retinas were burning.
That's right.
With acid. Oh, yeah. That's right. So I have a little bone to pick because that was my big shot. I heard that Tony Khan was in the audience there in the Phillipsburg Mall.
Yeah, I saw someone that looked a lot like him.
And if I beat Orange Cassidy, I might be, headlining the pay-per-view in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good
not
point.
Orange. That's something to think about. How, so I have a little bone to pick with Mr. Bryce and Mr. Orange come Saturday.
So this was, this is you trying to get some kind of comeuppance here, I guess. I mean, is Bryce going to be anywhere near your match on Saturday?
I have no clue. I honestly don't know, but here's an open challenge to Bryce.
Sure.
Bryce, on Saturday, ref my match. Open challenge to a ref.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You ever hear one of those before? You ever hear about an open challenge to a referee?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that Bryce.
First time here, your first podcast, a first time thing, an open challenge to Bryce to ref my match.
He's going to need to be careful, I guess.
He's going to be he better wear that same suit he wore during the Exploding Ring match. Hope he packs that. Because things might get a little wild.
So this is a 2-night thing. And I mean, there's wrestling is kind of the way I see it listed. I mean, it's almost like here's movies. And then also, there's wrestling, which is like you said, the way the signings occur. But I know there are at least some matches and appearances announced so far. Could you talk a little bit about what else fans can see there? What kind of matches are going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a 2-night event. And what happens is there's the matches, and then when it gets, dark out, they put the movies on the big screen. So on let me go with the movies first. On Friday, it's They Live with Rowdy Piper.
Classic.
Great movie. And a mystery movie. So you get a little surprise. The second movie is a mystery movie.
Cool.
On Saturday, it's Beyond the Mat. Great movie. And when can you ever see that like on a big screen? You know, that might be the only time in your life you can see Beyond the Mat on a big screen.
Right.
Followed by, I'm pretty sure, a Oscar. That's right. Oscars are given for movies, right?
Yeah.
Oscar-winning movie, Mr. Nanny.
What did Mr. Nanny get the Oscar for?
Movie of the year or movie of the century?
Oh, see, I thought Suburban Commando got
we had that last year.
movie of the century.
So on Friday we got a few matches, but the main event is Tony Deppen, Ring of Honor television champion, against a local vet, Tim Donst.
Oh yeah, I know Tim. Well, I know his work. He wouldn't know me.
You never know. We have a Cheeseburger.
Awesome.
Well, hold on. This is on Saturday. Let me get through Friday. We have. Let's see what else we got here. Give me a second here. We have Veda Scott, international wrestler. Yeah.
So is Veda going to be competing, or is she?
She's putting the spandex on. She'll be in the ring.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since we've seen her in the ring, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, against Masha Slamovich. That's a big time match. Mm-hmm. We have the Boar and Erica Lay going in a tag match against very famous, very popular Jeff Cannonball and Mitch. Do you know Mitch? His partner, Mitch? He's a crazy man. And then on Saturday, we've got Cheeseburger against Blank. That should be a great little wrestling match. Mm-hmm. We have Megabutt Ronnie. Megabyte Ronnie.
Wow.
And Puff and Kea wrestling Cloudy, Abby Jane, and Chris Worthless. That's an interesting match, right? And then the main event will be Jeremy Leary, Skylar, Matt Mikowski, your boy, Big Dan Champion, in an Atomicos match against Haunted Francis. I don't even know who that is. Green Ant, Mach 10, and that slimy, dirty Ultramantis Black.
This is a really stacked card, and a lot of people we haven't seen wrestle in quite some time.
That's true, yeah.
Both, I mean, pandemic related, promotion shutting down related, but also just, I mean, people who haven't been wrestling. So, I mean, that's some rare gets there.
And the only way to see it's to come, you know?
Yeah, that's okay. So, I mean, talk a little bit about how people can attend this show if they're within a reasonable distance of the Lehigh Valley.
So you can get tickets online. It's Mahoning Drive-In. No, let me change that. MahoningDIT.com. Or you could just go to, my Instagram, which is I am Big Dan Champion, or my Twitter, which is DanChamp4. And you can find links on there easily. You can go to the LVAC Instagram or Twitter. Both are XLVACX, and they'll have the links all over the place. If you don't want to get tickets in advance, you can get tickets there at the door. On Friday, gates open at 6, and on Saturday, gates open at 5.
Might not be a bad idea to grab a ticket.
And then if you want to come both nights, you can, and you have the option of staying overnight. So if you want to make this a whole weekend event, you can bring a tent. You can bring your car and sleep over. You can make it a whole weekend event of wrestling. Cool. Yeah,
that's not something that comes up a lot. I mean, that sort of thing is reserved more for like outdoor music festivals. So
exactly. Yeah.
make a camping trip out of it. That's
exactly. Yeah.
So again, this is it's terrible. I don't have the dates in front of me, but we'll be getting this out as soon as possible. Okay, here we are. May 21st and May 22nd.
Yep.
So it's coming weekend. If you're hearing it later, you're totally out of luck. It happened. But definitely something worth checking out. Dan, thanks for doing this. I mean, anything else to add or plug?
No, that's it. Follow XLVACX on both Instagram and Twitter. And then, if you want to check out, we're going to have shows eventually at Sokals, God willing. And those are amazing. Those are really fun. So any upcoming shows, check out XLVACX on both Instagram and Twitter.
Cool. All right. Thanks again.
Thank you.